Hey, what's going on YouTube? Storm here with another deck profile for you guys today. It's the second part of Dimension of Chaos Suite, and today we'll be introducing Graydles. Graydles are a new aqua-based water archetype that kind of they're a lot like aliens in just their design. They're basically a lot of them involving like snatching monsters. It's a lot of the people call it snatch steal deck, and for good reason. Each of the Graydle monsters usually activates when it's destroyed one way or another and steals your opponent's monsters. They all activate when they're destroyed by battle. Graydles are the other interesting thing about Graydles that I found was that most of the archetype, I think, except for Parasite and Dragon, are all lower rarities, which is are uncommon or lower, which is pretty nice. And it'll be a pretty affordable budget deck, and it's also a synchro deck for you guys out there who still enjoy the mechanics. Anyway, out of the way, let's get to deck profiles. First off, 3 copies of Graydle Alligator. Alligator activates when it's sent by is the one that activates when it's sent to the graveyard by a spell effect, which means oftentimes if I open up with Impact, I'll search out in the phase, search out Alligator. That way, if my opponent next turn has a monster out, I can summon Alligator, pop a card, and then activate Alligator's effect. Probably it's one of the better of the smaller monsters, but they're all important in their own way. 3 copies of Graydle Cobra. Cobra's effect is similar to Alligator's, except it's when it's destroyed by a trap effect. So that means when you destroy it by Graydle Split or even Oasis of Dragon Souls, if your opponent, like you have Dragon Souls and your opponent set and your opponent MSTs it, you can grab a Cobra from your graveyard and get its effect. So it's pretty dang nice. And then 3 copies of Graydle Eagle. Eagle activates when it's destroyed by a battle or a monster effect, which means you can destroy it with Graydle Slime and get its effect, which is pretty cool. And speaking of slime, 3 copies of Graydle Slime. This is the tuner monster for the deck. It special summons by destroying 2 Graydle cards you control. It's cards. You can destroy cards like Impact, Split, and Parasite in order to get it out. And when it's special summoned, you can grab one Graydle monster in your graveyard and special summon in defense position. Basically, it's an instant level 8 synchro, so it's pretty dang nice. And the last 3 monsters, 3 copies of Mother Grizzly. This card is basically sort of like, it's a bit of a slower paced deck, so you have to, Grizzly kind of gets you to whatever Graydle monster you need. When it's destroyed by battle, it's pretty nice. And then it's lean on monsters, 15 total. For the spells, 3 copies of Graydle Impact. This card is really, really good. You can target one. You can go 1-for-1 pop with your Graydle monsters, and in the end phase it searches any Graydle card from your deck to your hand, which is pretty incredible. 2 copies of MSD, as I've said in previous deck profiles. I always run 2 space, even though the floodgates have kind of been hit. I feel like MSD is kind of like, especially with the format we're going to have upcoming with pendulums being a thing, MSD is still always going to be good. 2 copies of Pot of Duality. It's a bit of a slower deck, so I feel like Duality is kind of a staple. 1 copy of Regeki, doesn't need to tell a ton of explanation. 3 copies of Supply Squad. The deck really benefits off of Supply Squad since not only do your Graydle monsters all activate when they're destroyed, say your opponent tries to MST your Graydle monster that's equipped to their monster, their monster will they don't get their monster back, they get destroyed. The monster gets destroyed and goes to their graveyard, which means you'll get to draw a card. So having Supply Squad in this deck is pretty nice. 2 copies of Surface. This allows you to get your Graydle monsters from your graveyard and special summon them, which is pretty darn cool. 3 copies of Fiendish, and then for the traps, 3 copies of Fiendish Jane. I feel like Fiendish is a staple currently. It's a really good card. 2 copies of Graydle Parasite. You don't really need 3, but it's a pretty decent card. When your opponent declares a direct attack, you can special summon Graydle monster from your deck in attack position. And then the opposite is when your Graydle monster you control attacks directly, you can target one monster in your opponent's graveyard and special summon it. So it can allow you to, it can work both ways. It can protect you, keep your life points safe, but it can also allow you to snatch your opponent's monsters from their graveyard. 3 copies of Graydle Split. This card has 2 effects. You can attack it's one face-up monster you control. It'll gain 500 attack, and you can. If it's equipped to a monster, you can send it to the graveyard, destroy the equipped monster, and then it'll special summon 2 Graydle monsters with different names. Which is really good in combination with Graydle Cobra. So that's one of the reasons I really like the card. 2 copies of Oasis of Dragon Souls, because you typically have a lot of really small monsters, so you want to special summon them in defense mode. And 2 copies of Storming Mirror Force. They're a really good card. It's pretty much a staple in my opinion, especially with Magic Specters being a thing. Now for the extra deck, copy Crimson Blader. Crimson Blader wins games against a lot of high-level decks. I feel like Crimson Blader, unless it becomes a completely Pendulum-based format, I think Crimson Blader would be a really good card. It's also really good against Monarchs as well. If you run over one of their monsters, they cannot tribute summon since it says normal or special level 5 or higher, so it really slows down Monarchs as well. 2 copies of Graydle Dragon. Graydle Dragons are really powerful. Synchro monster when it's synchro summoned, you can target up to the materials it was used to synchro summon it, typically 2, and destroy them. And if it's destroyed by battle, you can target another water monster in your graveyard, special summon it, but its effects are negated. So I like that it kind of gives the deck a little bit of floating aspect. 1 copy of Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend. Card is really dang good. The fact that you're able to blow up all your special summon monsters on the field, and then burn your opponent, and then you can still attack with all your monsters. It's pretty dang broken in my opinion. Really good card. Copy of Stardust Dragon. Stardust, I still make it quite regularly in this deck. I find myself it being one of the first go-to synchro monsters, since my opponent typically with Regeki and all these other destruction cards being legal. It's pretty nice to have Stardust Dragon. You don't always need it, but it's there when you need it. 1 copy of Thought Ruler Archfiend. Everyone knows this is one of my favorite synchro monsters. It's immune to targeting spells or traps by paying 1,000, and then you can gain you life when it runs over a monster and sends it to the graveyard. Then Stardust Spark Dragon. I've always found Stardust a bit superior, but I feel like it's nice to have the option to make both. Then for the Exceeds, it's a pretty much completely rank 3 extra deck, since it's basically most of what you can make. 1 Ghost Trick Alucard. Popping set cards is always good. Clearing off back row before you make a push. Clearing off set monsters and your opponent goes defensive. Copy of number 47 Nightmare Shark. Being able to shoot for game is really nice. Copy of Levier in case your little monsters get banished. 1 copy of Black Ray Lancer to negate monsters. Fortune Tune because it can't be targeted, and if sitting on it for a few turns can win games. 1 copy of Giga Brilliant to push damage, and then 1 copy of Anganir to keep our big monsters safe, and then 1 copy of Zenmains to stall for a bit and deal with cards. So anyway, guys, as always, let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think of this deck profile today, and as always, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. This is Warstorm, signing out.